All right, great to be here today. I am Chief Operating Officer at Gainsight, but I want to tell you a little bit about me personally, just to kick things off. Fact number one, I moved out to the Bay Area about 8 years ago, not knowing anybody, actually. I grew up on the East Coast, a whole new adventure being in the Bay Area. Fact number two, I am an aspiring vegan. I can't say I've made it there yet, but I've read so much about the whole foods plant-based diet. I am convinced it will be like the cure of all of my biohacking attempts, and so trying really hard to make that happen. And fact number three, a couple months ago, I started this sort of very bootstrapped show called the Be Brave campaign, where I interview people who have done very courageous things, stood up for what was right in their community, and who I really admire. So it's been a really fun journey, interviewing the first few people for this show. The reason I mention these specific facts to you is because I consider myself a perpetual beginner. I'm always sort of starting something, thinking about something from first principles. And actually, at Gainsight, one of our values is called Shoshin, which is a Japanese concept that means beginner's mind. It's really about thinking about things from scratch and challenging ourselves to really question, are we really an expert on something? This is especially relevant in customer success because almost 6 years ago when I joined Gainsight, no one really knew what customer success was, and I certainly didn't. I heard about it because I knew of Gainsight, but that was about it. It was kind of a vague concept, and over the years, we've figured out a lot. I think as a community, we've learned a lot. That being said, although I am here technically as sort of an expert to talk with you about customer success best practices, I am always learning about customer success. And although I don't think we have time for Q&A today, if there's something that I share today where you think, you know what, I think that's kind of outdated, or I found a better way, I would love to hear from you, because if I ever am not a beginner in this field, I am probably missing something. I'm probably not seizing an opportunity to innovate more and learn more. So our journey today starts with the fact that it's a whole new world out there. Your customers have more power than they've ever had before. And there are a few reasons for that. One is that with the advent of cloud technologies, we can develop software faster than we ever have before, and in a more agile way. And customers know this, so they expect that your product is going to evolve super quickly. The second factor causing customers to have more power is that we have shifted from an on-premise software world where you could charge money up front and perhaps not have to care so much about your customers later, to subscription business models where you make revenue and a trickle over time. You actually have to care what your customers think. Number three, your customers' voices are amplified with social media. Both your detractors' voices are amplified and also your advocates' voices are amplified. So that creates more power for your customers. And then finally, with digital transformation, we're interacting with customers through many different digital channels, and they expect that you're going to respond right away whenever they have a question or concern. There's a fifth thing going on here, which is that we have more choices as customers than we've ever had before. There is just a cornucopia of companies out there that are all building products, competing with each other. Sometimes it's really difficult for a customer to differentiate between products because it's so easy for companies to catch up with each other's features. All of this means that we have to care more about our customers, and this has caused us to enter the age of the customer. The balance of power has shifted from vendors to the customer. We have to prioritize customer success. And what I mean by that, when I say customer success, because again, it's historically been kind of a vague concept, is that we have to care about both the customer experience and about driving outcomes for our customers. When I think of customer experience, I think creating positive emotions in our customers. This is where the categories of customer delight, customer happiness fall into place. But customer outcomes is equally important, and it's about generating a return on investment for your clients from their purchase of your product. So the thing is, we have to achieve both of these things in order to truly say that we're good at customer success. The fact is, if you are generating very positive experiences for your clients, which would put you in the upper half of this grid, but you're not generating outcomes for them in terms of a tangible ROI, Your client might say, well, look, we really like working with you guys. You're super friendly. But when I tried to justify the renewal of your product to my chief procurement officer, my chief financial officer, honestly, they said, doesn't really seem like it's worth renewing. Now, conversely, if we're generating great ROI for our clients, but we're not actually generating happy experiences, positive emotions, your client might keep renewing, but when they have that new use case that they're trying to get help with, they're going to explore other vendors as well. So we want to be in that upper right quadrant, which creates true loyalty from our clients. Now, in order to instrument these great experiences and great outcomes, we've got to leverage the power of all functions within our company, which is particularly difficult given the way that companies are structured today conceptually. So, this is what a typical org structure looks like. I think we're all familiar with this. And, this vertical orientation, hierarchical orientation, we have a CEO and then, a variety of functions just vertically reporting to that CEO. This creates a lot of challenges along the customer journey, which I imagine many of you have experienced. The problem is that in this model, the product and engineering team is perceived as being the creator of new features that they then hand off to the marketing team to go promote. The marketing team generates great PR and leads, hands off those leads to sales. Sales tries to close a few of those leads and hands off those customers to customer success, and it's their responsibility to make customers successful. And each of these handoff points creates often tremendous friction for the client because these functions are operating in their own individual silos. To give you an example of how this journey can feel really disjointed for the client, I want to walk you through actually just a very classic pattern, which unfortunately has happened at my own company, Gainsight, but I've also seen this happen at many other companies. I think this is a pretty common challenge. So what you're seeing up here is on the top, the vendor's view of what's going on, and at the bottom, what the client is experiencing. So let's say as a vendor, we win the deal, and then the sales team passes off the customer to services. Well, the client is thinking, gosh, what a poor handoff. Like, you're asking me the same questions that your salesperson asked me actually just a few days ago. Did you guys not talk to each other? Right? And then from there, we go through the onboarding experience, and as a vendor, we're thinking, oh great, this customer is like nearing the end of onboarding, time to ask them for a reference so that we can capture that new prospect. But the client is thinking, look, like you just missed my onboarding milestone. I'm not achieving value yet. Not time for me to serve as a reference. And then later on as a vendor, we might say, well, we've got this great new platform. We're going to migrate you to the new version of our product. But the client is thinking, it's been really frustrating just trying to get to know the current version. Not sure we're ready to migrate. Then a vendor might say, well, we'd love to have you speak at our conference that's coming up. It's our big user conference. Like, seems like you guys are getting a lot of value. Like, please come, promote us. But as a client, we're thinking, I'm in the middle of a massive support escalation. Did your marketing team not talk to your support team about the fact that I'm very upset about this bug that I discovered? And then from there, we as a vendor might ask for an upsell, but the client is saying, like, I'm barely adopting your product. And then, as a vendor, we might ask for a renewal, but the client is thinking, yeah, even if I'm going to renew your product, like, I'm not sure actually if you're the right vendor for me to work with next year, and I don't want to be in the situation next year where I feel obligated to renew. I'm going to start actually looking for competing solutions right now. That way I have some choices. So this kind of thing happens a lot. And we need a new way of organizing our company to ensure that the client journey is seamless. The analogy that I like to use is a symphony orchestra, where each function at the company is effectively playing a different musical instrument, whether it's a tuba or a violin, but they are all playing the same sheet music. That way we can ensure that even if each of these functions are responsible for different things, it's probably good to have some division of labor, it's really clear how each of their activities relates to this broader purpose of creating a cohesive customer journey. And of course, it's super important to have the people, the process, and the technology to ensure that the right conductor is in place, right? That all of these different instruments are being harmonized together according to a common sheet music. Now, when I came to Gainsight almost 6 years ago, this was the challenge that honestly we had internally, and also the challenge that many of our clients had, because effectively all of our clients are chief customer officers or chief revenue officers that are focused on customer success. Now, to give you a quick background on me, I've previously been in management consulting, worked in investing actually for a while, which is not exactly a common background for customer success. But what's sort of interesting about these industries is that like every week you're getting up to speed on a new problem or a new sector. So you're never an expert, but you're constantly thinking about like, how do I solve this new problem? I'd been a philosophy major in college, which it was a great, ethics, politics, and economics, but I studied primarily moral philosophy. And the great thing about philosophy as opposed to a subject like history is you don't actually have to memorize anything. You actually never become an expert. It's all about using logic and first principles thinking to come up with problems. So I really enjoyed it. And I tend to spend my weekends sort of like pondering the big questions in life while walking through the Marin headlands north of San Francisco. So anyway, this is sort of the skill set that I brought to bear in trying to figure out the customer success world. And to tell you a little bit about Gainsight, we're known for our software. We have sort of produced a lot of expertise on the subject of customer success through the community that we've helped grow over time, and that we continue to sort of cultivate at our annual Pulse conference. We do have a number of products that help with customer success, ranging from our initial product, CS. This is really about like helping a customer success management team do their jobs really well. But over time, we've been building products for a variety of different functions to help them create a cohesive journey for their own clients. Now, when I started contemplating, this problem of how do we create that orchestra at our company and at the companies that we work with, at first we were figuring out problems in a very narrow way. Like an issue would come up, like how do we forecast renewals, or how do we ensure that we're keeping in touch with executive stakeholders? And so we would kind of figure out the best, like what we thought might be a best practice. We would incubate it internally, we'd bounce it around with our clients, we might tweak it based on their feedback, and then we'd write like a blog post on it basically, and that we would kind of like solidify our thinking on it. But over time we realized actually that the challenge of customer success is quite massive, and it's not enough to come up with point solutions. Actually, we need a much broader perspective on the journey that organizations need to undergo as they become more customer-centric. So over the years, we built this maturity model for customer success that has 4 different stages. Typically, when a company's starting out focusing on customer success, they start in this reactive stage where everyone's in firefighting mode, probably lots of escalations, and you're kind of responding to things on a case-by-case basis. From there, companies typically move into the insights and action stage where they've gathered data on what's going on in their clients, and they're trying to respond to the data, take action based on the trends that they're noticing. The third stage is all about proactively driving a journey for your own clients. So prescriptively getting a client from their stage 0 to an outcome, right? Coming back to that customer outcomes theme. And then finally, this 4th stage of transformation is about making sure that all the functions at your company are oriented around the health of your clients. That's kind of the pinnacle of customer success. So we built this model based on our interactions with hundreds or even thousands of different companies, and we created a survey to understand where the industry was in each of these stages and what the retention rates were in each one. And what we found was that as you progress from stage 0 reactive to stage 3 transformation, you achieve a 13 percentage point improvement in gross retention, which is remarkable. There have been a variety of studies done about the correlation between your company's valuation and the gross retention rate. And although I don't have that data here, it's publicly available. And like 13 percentage points improvement in enterprise valuation is a massive improvement. Even just 1 percentage point of gross retention rate is considered to be a major win by your investors and your board. Secondly, we looked at how did net retention, which includes both upsell and churn, evolve as companies progress through these stages, and we found there was a 33 percentage point improvement, which is again unbelievably powerful, for a company. Now, we had this next challenge of figuring out, well, if we know there are these stages, how do we help companies actually progress from stage to stage? So we created this framework that we called the periodic table of customer success elements. This is kind of a reference to the periodic table in chemistry for those science geeks out there. And what we did was we looked at the 3 target stages. There's insights and actions, outcomes, and transformation, which we just talked about. And we wanted to create these bite-sized processes by which a company could achieve a goal in each of these stages, and then ultimately, progress from stage to stage. So to give you an example, one of the goals or elements in the insights and action stage is lifecycle management, number 2, LM, right? And the goal here is that a company wants to ensure that there are certain milestones that they are progressing their clients through along that journey, whether it's onboarding milestones, executive business reviews along the way, certain touch points that you want to have leading up to a renewal. So we spent, honestly, hundreds and thousands of hours across various team members over a couple of years designing, with our clients, what makes a great lifecycle program. And then to give you another example, adoption management. This is about ensuring that you're tracking the way in which your customers and users are adopting your product. Which features are being adopted. How your sticky features are being adopted. What are the patterns and how people tend to adopt your product. And then you're able to communicate in-app, in product with your clients to encourage the right kind of adoption. And then a third example, renewal management, RM, number 6 within outcomes, is about forecasting renewals in a very predictable way. It's interesting, if you were to ask a sales leader in an interview, which I've done many times because we've interviewed a variety of sales leaders over the years at Gainsight, if you ask them, what's the number one thing that you're proudest of that makes you a great sales leader? Almost always they will say, I'm very good at forecasting my bookings. Very interesting. If you asked a customer success leader, what is the thing that you were proudest of? Right now, most customer success leaders probably wouldn't say, I'm very skilled at forecasting renewals. But I would say that as our industry progresses, evolves, becomes increasingly sophisticated, that is going to be a primary skill set that a chief customer officer or VP of customer success has. The reality is that boards are really looking for companies to have predictable retention rates and that they can forecast renewals quarters in advance. So that's a lot of what the renewal management element is about. Now, we went further and we said, okay, we want to understand, given this maturity curve and the best practices for progressing along the maturity curve, where is the industry in terms of their own maturity? What are the things that they have that's easy for them? What are the things that's hard? And what we found in surveying the industry is that automating the customer journey is the hardest thing for people. It's the thing that they are constantly challenged with and struggling with. Now, and anecdotally, I hear a lot from chief customer officers and CEOs that I talk to that they say, I need to scale. This is a constant refrain that I hear, I need to scale. And I've personally said that internally a lot. This is a big challenge. Now, it's worth us asking, whenever we see a trend like this, I always find it in the spirit of first principles thinking, it's worth considering, why is it that so many people are finding it difficult to scale? Where is this need to scale even coming from? So I'd love to sort of adopt the mindset of a 3-year-old child right now. Picture the 3-year-old child that might be in your life that's always asking, why is the sky blue, right? Why does the moon come up at night and the sun comes out in the morning, right? These are sort of first principles questions. And so I want to ask, why is it that we constantly feel the need to scale? So I'm going to do this hypothetical conversation where I'm going to ask myself why many times in order to get to the root cause. Question number 1, Allison, why do you need to scale? Well, I need to scale because I can't get more budget from my CFO. Okay, well, why isn't your current budget sufficient to meet your needs? Well, the thing is that the account ratios for my CSMs feel very high right now. They are working so hard. They are traveling for executive business reviews. They are then coming home to their hotel room at night, and they are like responding to emails from clients. They are just super strapped. Like, I feel like I need to hire more people. Okay, well, why do your customer success managers need to do all of those things? Well, I think that's what it takes to enable adoption of our product. I mean, it's just kind of what we need to do to make sure clients get to value. Well, why is your product hard to adopt? Well, yeah, it's not that I think our product is any harder to adopt than any other product, but the reality is that like something's always coming up. We released this new feature recently, and it was kind of like a minimum viable product, and so we were on the phone with a number of our customers trying to figure out the workaround, and we're kind of creating these hacks because we knew that the next release wouldn't come for another couple of weeks, so we wanted to kind of like have some Band-Aid solutions in the meantime. Well. Why aren't you solving for the product gaps? Because it sounds like that's really at the root of why you have some challenges. Well, to be honest, it's not really the job of like customer success to solve for product gaps. I think that's like the job of the product team. Well, I thought you said it was your responsibility to scale, but actually you're saying that the root cause is with product. Well, I guess it's a shared responsibility. Actually, I think customer success and product both share the responsibility to figure out how to scale efficiently. Well, it sounds like you and your product leader should set up a meeting. Interesting, right? Now, I'm putting myself out there as sort of this hypothetical example, but I've heard this dialogue so many times with folks across the industry. This is a very common challenge, and the reason why there's often this challenge of customer success and product working together is because typically when anyone releases a product, the value delivered by that product out of the box is less than the value that the client expects to get. This expectations gap is like prolific across, or just dominant across our industry. And what typically happens is that the customer success manager, being the person primarily responsible for the client, is the one responsible for plugging the gaps in the product between what the product delivers out of the box and what the client expects. I call this model CSM of the gaps. It's the CSM of the gaps. And this is a problem, right? This makes it hard to scale. There are a lot of different kinds of CSMs that we might hire for and we might create jobs for. Now, CSM of the gaps, or CSM for value gaps here, is at the left-hand column here. Now, what typically is going on when you have a CSM that's focused on these Band-Aid solutions is that your product is a little earlier stage, so that gap is pretty significant. You might not be selling services, and so it's the job of the CSM to shoulder the burden to get the client to value. Typically, this is a very technical CSM, and the reason why this is an unfortunate place to be is because these kinds of CSMs tend to count as cost of goods sold, or COGS. COGS means these are expenses that you need to invest in order to deliver on the promise that you made to the client when you sold them. In other words, this is work that you need to do to catch up with revenue that you've already booked. That's a problem. We want high gross margins, right? Which is the difference between revenue, it's revenue minus COGS. So we want to minimize COGS. We don't want this. This is a problem. We want to move increasingly to that second column, which I call CSM for value delivery. Typically, in this area, our products are more robust. We have services that we're selling to help get clients to initial value. Obviously, you can't do this for your low-touch segment, but for your more mid-market enterprise customers, typically you're going to need some services. These CSMs typically have a strong executive presence because they're trying to pave the way for an outcome to be delivered, which is often measured by the executive who sponsored the deal or the renewal. And the cost for these CSMs is typically considered under cost of retention, which is a part of the sales and marketing expense. What this means is you are now investing expenses in delivering future revenue, which propels your growth. This is a much better place to invest than in COGS. Now, if we can go even further to this third column, this is about CSM for value capture. In this case, your product is even more mature. You may even have multiple products at this point. And services are a core competency, or else maybe no services are needed because like you're a Zoom or a Slack, you're just like a super scalable product. The kinds of CSMs in this category are more focused on upsell. These are sales type people or farmers. They're not, I think sometimes like sales gets a bad name in the world of customer success, but these are consultative people who are persuasive and are looking to help clients move in the direction of achieving even greater value by buying more products and licenses and other things from you. The cost for these CSMs falls under expansion, which is also a part of sales and marketing, and I'd say an even better place to invest, assuming that you've got strong renewal rates already. So we want to be moving our CSMs from the left-hand column to the right-hand column. And the key to this is stronger collaboration between your customer success team and your product management team to ensure that you have scalability. Now, we believed actually so strongly in this need for customer success and product management to collaborate that we actually launched a new product line last year called Gainsight Px for product experience. And the goal is to get customer success and product aligned around this common source of truth for how your customers are adopting your product and be able to communicate in-app with your users in order to facilitate adoption in less costly ways than getting on the phone with your clients. We also actually, have invested a lot in this idea of driving adoption in scalable ways for our own clients. We created a product that we call Enablement Engine, which allows our Gainsight clients to create their own in-app messaging in our product so that they can, help enable their own CSMs and using our product and just, being better at their jobs. So if I leave you with two things to go out and do after this talk, I'd say number one, if you're in customer success, go out and set up a meeting with your product leader. If you're in product, go out, set up a meeting with your customer success leader. If you're a CEO or founder, make this collaboration happen because it's the key to scaling your company efficiently. Action number two that I would encourage is to go figure out what is your maturity for your customer success organization. How are you doing with respect to your peers in the industry? How do you benchmark? We have a survey for customer success maturity at this link. Feel free to take a photo of the slide. I'd encourage you to check it out. And finally, if you have any questions for me, or if you would like to challenge me to have an even stronger beginner's mind, if you figured out a better way to do one of the things I talked about today, I'd love to hear from you on LinkedIn or Twitter. Thank you so much.